We are resuming our panel discussion with a focus on entrepreneurship and innovation with an all-woman panel, which are moderated by two gentlemen. The topic that will be discussed is harnessing innovation-driven entrepreneurship towards economic growth. For this session, I'm pleased to introduce Mr. Adzfar Ed Aziz, or colloquially known as Ed, and Mr. Edward Tay, who will moderate the discussion among the renowned panels. Ed is a Chevener from batch 2019-2020 and has extensive experience in marketing, digital transformation, spectrum, and social enterprises. He is currently the head of marketing for Pitch In. On the other hand, Edward is our camp committee member and is from batch 2019-2020. He is a dentist by training and somehow got drawn into the blockchain realm and will be keen to have coffee for further conversations. He also is a content strategist at The Bridge. The screen is yours, Ed and Edward.
Thank you, MC Myelone. Now, I trust that everyone has a great session so far. And this panel is about entrepreneurship and innovation. I'm Edward, your co-moderator.
Hi, my name is Adzfar Aziz. You can call me Ed, not Ed, Myelone.
Yeah, so
Ed
there's
Ed for engage digitally. We have two Eds here. Yes, and yeah, I'm also the co-moderator today.
So today we'll be discussing harnessing innovation-driven entrepreneurship towards economic growth. Let me introduce our panelists for today. First, we have Miss Adeline Ng Kai Wen. She's from the latest Chevening batch, just came back from the UK, 2020-2021. She's the founder and managing director of Rofina and founder of Boomi & Co. Next is none other than Professor Dr. Rofina Yasmin Othman. She's the Chevener 1990-1994 CEO of Capital Berhad and board director of Seraya Capital. And last but not least, we have Miss Kartini Ariffin, Chevener batch 2006-2007, co-founder of Rice Bowls. So hello, as you can see, this we have a special all-women panel today, which goes to show the Chevening effect in the rise of the female entrepreneur. So we have prepared a few introductory questions, but let's begin with a round of introduction, starting with Prof. Yasmin, then followed by Adeline and Kartini. So in the realm of entrepreneurship, every entrepreneurial endeavor starts with a great founder story, right? So why don't we give us a little bit, share us a little bit about your background in your entrepreneurial journey, Prof. Yasmin.
Myself. Oh, thank you so much, Ed and to Zayim for dragging me into this wonderful forum. Congratulations! It's definitely a great success. And it was a hard panel to follow, panel one. That was an excellent competition. I hope we'll have one too. Now, so am I an entrepreneur? I think in the real sense of the word, I'm not. And I'm so glad to be in the presence of two young entrepreneurs here today. But I've been working the last 10, 15 years as an intermediary in the entrepreneurial ecosystem. So, I connect entrepreneurs, I help entrepreneurs, and I help to build entrepreneurs, especially within the university setting and beyond. So it's been a really exciting time, I think, for entrepreneurs in Malaysia. There's a movement that you can feel, and as the last panel said, there's nothing but hope in the future about how we can grow. And the role of entrepreneurship and entrepreneurs, I think, has been evolving, and we've come to a stage where there needs to now, to me, be a little bit of a quantum leap in how we look at entrepreneurship and how it can impact the economy. And I think this is a really big ask for all the young entrepreneurs out there. in that you have to now view yourself not as people who want to make a success of your business, but people who can contribute to the economy as a whole. You know, not looking at big companies, GLCs, be the one to be contributing to the economy, but for entrepreneurs, and innovation is the key. So in my journey as an intermediary or as a facilitator within the ecosystem, we also see more and more the role of innovation in tech. And I hope that conversation will be one that we'll have today and see what are, you know, how can we really jumpstart this? So, you know, so am I an entrepreneur? I hope to be. You know, I have dreams of spinning off a company, and that brings me to my current passion, actually, is the silver hat entrepreneur. So we always look at entrepreneurship as being something for the young. And I think post-retirement entrepreneurs are an untapped kind of resource in Malaysia, especially when we retire very early in Malaysia, 50, 55, 60 sometimes. So something to think about, and, you know, maybe have a conversation about as well. Thank you. Thank you. Very short.
Thanks, Prof. Yasmin. That's so interesting. I think my parents be so interested to be part of your future plans. So hi everyone, my name is Adeline. I'm the founder of Rofina. So a bit of my background and my story on how I started the company. So the idea was actually initiated, inspired by my sisters. So I come from an all-girls family. So my parents have like 3 daughters. And so in college, right, to save money, we kind of like share clothing, because we are on a tight budget. So what we do is we just buy one piece of clothing and we share it on different occasions. So that's, I guess, the advantage of having sisters. So when they moved out of the house, I started to have less and less clothing, and I realized like, oh no, I have to buy more now. So then I got this idea, and I thought it'd be so wonderful that if I could just also like borrow clothing from other people's closet. So I have friends who always like, borrow my clothing, and then I will swap with them as well. So I thought that, oh, it'd be so amazing if I could extend this network to a bigger range of women. So that's what I did exactly. So I started a social marketplace, which is Rofina, and it's a peer-to-peer clothing renting platform. That's just a little fun story of how I started.
Wow, so can I go and check out your wardrobe now?
Yes, of course, it's a big mess.
The 2 ads, you're more than welcome to participate as well, because I'm sure Adeline have choices for everyone, including a doctor. Yeah. Hello, everyone. So excited to be here. I would like to thank Cam for inviting me. It's been many years since I've joined the alumni, and I'm always open to supporting any activities. And this is congratulations to the camp committee for putting this together. So entrepreneurship is a very, very, very hot word, especially during the pandemic. It never used to be that way. So a little bit on how I started to in my entrepreneurship journey. I don't have an entrepreneur mindset. I was not meant to be an entrepreneur. My journey was all the way probably to be in corporate. I worked in the media landscape after I graduated. And, I've been working for media houses like Media Prima, I Am For You, and Star Group. At that time, it was like Red FM. I was working for a few stations. And my journey started in the media landscape, also content creation and creative for platform, traditional platform, TV and radio. And just a couple of years ago, not too long, after about 18 years of working the 9 to 5, I decided to try out and venture on my own. So I started my entrepreneurship journey at 40. So not an age where many people would like to venture. And because at that age, if I compare it to Adeline, I know I'm so envious because, you know, wherever I go, Adeline, for accelerator or any networking, there'll be so many young startups like you, and I'll be like, you know, I envy the energy, but there's so much at stake for me at that time. I had a family and I had commitments and I had obligations. But I thought, you know, there was a calling inside me, especially after I worked for 18 years for the media landscape, traditional media landscape, TV and radio. I saw a tsunami of the digital. Okay, digital was coming in. Our infrastructure in Malaysia was already supporting the digital landscape. You know, you can see content creators coming out on social media, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and that's when I decided with two of my partners to set up a boutique production house catering for content on the digital landscape, social media. So we do our own content, we have our own channel, and we also curate for a client. And at the same time, I think because of my love and passion for sharing as well, so I get invited to universities and also to speak in conferences to talk about you know, some of the topics that they will throw out to me is like traditional ataupun new media. At that time, it's new media. It's no longer new media. Okay, it's not new anymore. So, Tini, can you like just give 2-hour lecture, new media versus traditional media? So, and I thought, okay, you know, I love this sharing because I speak to a lot of broadcast students, and I decided to become a certified trainer. And that's when I've also came out and as part of the company to have a learning and development arm. So that's where I started. It wasn't an easy journey. Also, as I mentioned earlier on, entrepreneurship has become such a popular word. You know, usahawan kan, dulu kita panggil business. And because of where I came from, my parents was traditionalist. So I wasn't really encouraged to have a business, because it's not secure. Are you sure? So I know it's been a wonderful journey, and I'm sure Adeline could share as well. So here we are, and I'm so happy to be able to contribute in this webinar to talk about entrepreneurship and innovation. So hopefully, you know, we'll have a good conversation today. Thank you.
Thank you very much to all the panel for the awesome introduction. Really would love to, you know, sit down again and then share a lot of our entrepreneurial journey. So I did MSc Entrepreneurship, Innovation and Technology from Strathclyde Business School, same batch as Edward and Zaim, the COVID cohort 2019-2020. So going to the first question, I've seen a lot of challenges, a lot of roadblocks. Based only on your own experience, what would be the biggest roadblocks and opportunities in the entrepreneurship, especially in the social entrepreneurship ecosystem? To Professor Yasmin first.
I mean, that's a really interesting question. So entrepreneurship is one thing, but social entrepreneurship is another. I mean, what does that mean in the first place? You know, so basically these are enterprises or entrepreneurs who have a social end in mind when they start a business or something. I mean, it could be sustainability as far as Adeline is concerned. It could be, you know, people development, which is, you know, societal change for Kartini. But I think the understanding of what social enterprise is or what social entrepreneur is sometimes a stumbling block in itself, you know, and that's what I found along the way. In that there seems to be like division between entrepreneurs, like tech entrepreneurs, you know, Silicon Valley entrepreneurs, and then social entrepreneurs, which are really, you know, really more downscale, more. So I think that change in how we understand what social enterprise means is one of the big stumbling blocks in not getting more people to admit or to actually come on board in this space. And the understanding that when you talk about social enterprise, you are talking about a business. You're not talking about a CSR project. You're not talking about short term. You're talking about long-term sustainable impact. And you know, and it is about profit, and the profit that you make, you know, will enable you to run the business and impact more and more people. So it's about scale and so on. So all these things, I think, has to be changed in the mindset, especially of younger people just starting out on the entrepreneur journey. Sometimes the moment that they feel they're a social entrepreneur, then it's like downscale. It's not about big impact funding. It's not about big, it's not about scaling or growing. And it seems like that. So definitions, understanding mindsets, mainstreaming social enterprise and social entrepreneurs, I think it's really, really critical to define them properly and to get a better understanding. Yeah. So that to me is a starting point as far as I'm concerned when I was trying to build ecosystems of entrepreneurs. So we need to break down that line between entrepreneurs, tech entrepreneurs, and social entrepreneurs. There's no line. Everybody makes impact, really.
Same question to Adeline and Kartini. Your thoughts on your own experience. What would be roadblocks and opportunities within the ecosystem?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Kartini, I'll go first. Yeah, so I think I really agree with what Prof. Yasmin was sharing earlier about having that division between like tech entrepreneur, social entrepreneur. So of course, like for myself, what I was trying to build was actually like a social enterprise, right? And yeah, there is like currently also a very like stigma against social enterprises, and a lot of people still do not clearly understand what exactly is a social enterprise. A lot of times they thought like, oh, is it an NGO? But so exactly like what Prof. Yasmin was highlighting, right? It's a for-profit business, but with a social impact. So I think like with roadblocks and the opportunities of building a social enterprise, I think there are like 3 points for me, right? So I think number one would be mindset. So I think mindset of an entrepreneur has to be very strong, and you have to really know your core values of like why you start up. Because I think with entrepreneurship, it's not a sprint, it's really a marathon. And sometimes the journey gets really lonely because it's not even a marathon where you run together and you got people cheering you on, but really it's about achieving your end goal, right? So I think the mindset of entrepreneur sometimes could be a roadblock and as well as an opportunity. Really is a double-edged sword. So having the right mindset, is really important. And I think also I've been reflecting a bit on your question, right? Like what are some of the roadblocks? I think finance is a really big one. So as like, cliche as it sounds, but really finance is really the currency of the world, and you really have to have strong funding, strong budgeting. So when I was starting up like Bumi & Co, which was my first business and initiative, finance was a huge thing that I learned. So I bootstrapped the business from ground up, right? And so it was really good because it gave me a lot of freedom to do a lot of things. But at the same time, there were a lot of other roadblocks, like not having enough connections and proper network to get me to where I wanted to be. So the growth was very slow and stagnant, and therefore a lot of roadblocks and challenges along the way. So even if I got a really amazing initiative that I want to start, like, want to save the world, save the planet, go zero straw and things like that, there were only like a certain caveat that I can do. And then I guess the third one would be on educating the community that I want to build. Again, I think this, there's a lot of like effort and commitment into pouring into your community that you want to build. And that has really been an opportunity for me because I get to meet a lot of amazing people along the way. And I think like for even like with my postgraduate degree in the UK, right? It's really about the community and learning from others. So I guess education is such a big and important opportunity for me.
Right, wonderful. I mean, I just love hearing both of them. I think that they sum up everything. So sometimes like, alamak, I last lah nak cakap apa ni?
After this, the next question, you can be the first. Don't worry.
I'm trying to cultivate my listening habit. Yeah. So for me, when I started off as entrepreneur, I'll speak based on my experience, and I'm sure a lot of entrepreneurs or people who are starting up could relate to it. Although I feel that every experience is customized, it's not the same. What Adeline's going through is probably different, because, I'm not trying to state the obvious, also because age is also different, experiences is also different. Number one, I feel that when I first started out, the roadblock, I mean, I don't like to call it a roadblock because it sounds quite negative, right? So I always, as an entrepreneur, you really have to be really positive about everything. You just have to be positive about everything. Otherwise, then you would not have the stamina to proceed. And I think this is what Adeline already said about the mindset. So the mindset, and I did mention earlier on, if you just started out and if you already have an experience of being exposed to some form of entrepreneurship in your family, I believe that they will help. But a lot of people might find this roadblock, especially in the COVID time where, people lost their jobs and, they are looking for something to sustain. I see a lot of people resort to entrepreneurship. It doesn't matter whether you jual tudung ke, you jual kari pap ke, you jual food at home ke. That is entrepreneurship, where you proactively go out to sell a product or services. It could be social enterprise, it could be just anything, but the motive is for you to generate income, and so that you are sustainable for you and your family and your community. So that would be a roadblock that I faced because I was accustomed to working as an employee. To actually look at entrepreneurship, and especially I can tell you the most simple thing was the timing. But I think this is also a good practice, because when you have the experience working already, you could adapt to like, okay, you know what, I have to clock in. If I clocked in when I was working, I have to do the same thing for my business, because you're your own boss. So, if you don't turn up on Monday, who knows? Right? But it's also the discipline, mindset and discipline. Number two, definitely the support. If you're so strongly feeling about going on your own, but your family members does not support you, or perhaps you don't have a community of people, like-minded people to support you, you might find your motivation might not be as strong as just yourself. You could sustain just by yourself, but in order for you to be fueled, you need to be surrounded by other entrepreneurs. And I think that's when Adeline mentioned about networking. And I think that's why there's a lot of support group, like, people go into accelerators, or people go into BNIs, more to understand and say, hey, you know what, I'm not doing this right. How? Because it also relates to number three, which is the knowledge. Yeah, so the knowledge. Without knowledge, you might just be like a raging bull trying to maneuver straight, and then you just don't know where you're going. I feel that if you're coming in like from me, who've not been exposed to entrepreneurship at early age, mentorship is something that will be very, very beneficial. So those are some of the roadblocks. And I think what I also realized in my own journey in my business is resources. Finding the right people, finding the people who also believed in your services, in your product. Because when it is your own, the feel ni lain macam, because it's your own, you own it, and your passion, and you want to do every single thing so that it works. But you might not find an employee who have that same heart like you, and you will try to mentor, coach, you pour your heart, and the next day they say, saya resign lah puan. Kenapa? You're my only staff, why are you leaving? Yeah, so it does sucks out your energy. It is very draining, but I think this is a part and parcel of it. So those are the roadblocks. I can see a lot of opportunities in entrepreneurship. I think now, having go through it, I woke up this morning, and I was going for my run. I can do my own time. I know it's a Saturday. Someone texts me and say, I'm so sorry I kacau you on Saturday. I say it's okay, because when you have your own business, it doesn't matter. You could have your break on Wednesday, you could have break on Friday, you could as and when, that doesn't mean that it's just the weekend. So opportunities are, if you're open to it, there's going to be a lot of opportunities for you to seek to have more business opportunity and networking. And also I think that because jobs are not to say scarce, but everybody learned that during the pandemic, anything can happen. You can lose anything in 24 hours. So entrepreneurship, it's like a lot of people are looking at it not only as a backup, but probably as something that they want to look as, that is the transition of working to entrepreneur. Thank you.
Yeah, I think Kartini brought up a very good point about the situation that we are in right now, the COVID pandemic. I think sometimes when push comes to shove, entrepreneurship can be your last resort. You have to venture into it. I'd like to pose the next question first to Adeline. How has the COVID-19 pandemic affected your business, specifically your business model, and maybe the impact towards your users or beneficiaries?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ed. So I think like for us, definitely COVID-19, I think like as entrepreneurs, all of us here, I think COVID-19 was really a big hit for everyone. And I think not even just us, right? Like in some way or another, we were all affected by it. So I think for specifically like for my business, because initially Revolfa was only a peer-to-peer renting platform, right? So we only focus on lending and borrowing of clothing within the community. So that being said, hygiene was of course like a priority for us. So we used to, when we used to do the washing and everything with Adobe and things like that. But of course, and then, when COVID-19 came, hygiene and cleanliness became such a buzzword, right, for 2020. So not just that, but also events. So like our business model, we depend a lot on events. So like you have like your gala dinner, or even like some of your, your company corporate dinners and things like that, where you need like new pieces of clothing and you want to like flaunt your dresses, right? So we really rely a lot on that. But of course, these things were all cancelled during the COVID-19. Weddings were all like put on hold. There were no like birthdays, there were no parties and things like that. So we literally had no business during COVID-19, right? Because everything was on a hold, on a pause. So what happened was we started pivoting very quickly. I think that's what all entrepreneurs would do during COVID. So what happened was we started implementing and introducing repairing services as well. So essentially what we did was we got people to help run workshops and teach our community to do embroideries or like mending work like knitting and things like that, and where people could actually learn how to repair their clothing from home. So these were like some of the things that really changed like the whole business model, and from there it was I guess the lesson here is you could also see it as like a positive thing in the end of the day, because we get to add on another service, right? So now we are not just a renting platform, we are also like a reselling platform and also a repairing platform. And I think like my biggest lesson from the whole like COVID pandemic experience was to have your core values and your core purpose as an organization really strong, because I think our mission was always to extend the life cycle of each piece of clothing, so making sure that they don't go into landfills, right, and then pollute the environment and so on. So I think like even with the add-on services like repairing and reselling, we still managed to stay strong and keep our whole core values. So I guess for entrepreneurs, if there is something that that comes your way, making sure that you have strong core value and pivot around that, it'll be that would be a solution moving forward for us as well.
Thanks for sharing. Prof. Yasmin, you want to describe through this COVID, any pivots to be made, any changes that you made?
Oh, this is a great topic for me, and you hit the head about pivoting during times of crisis. But the COVID was a revelation, I think, to all of us, and in some ways, you know, it has broken some misconceptions and some barriers to innovation. Surprisingly, I'm going to talk about that a little bit because you know, just like Adeline having to pivot to take on something new. So had everybody had to, right, during this time. Everybody had to. Everybody became a techie. Everybody, I know how to do Zoom now. I mean, you know, for a non-tech person like me, it's amazing. But what I found is actually, like, amongst the young people that I work with, is that COVID taught them one thing, that technology and innovation can make a lot of difference, and technology and innovation was accessible to them. That's what they found, and that this technology and innovation, you know, if you want to have it make impact, you know, as an entrepreneur or something, you had to be able to scale it. You had to be able to grow it, you know, and those are all principles of entrepreneurship during a crisis. And it was very exciting to see, you know, you had these communities like making things like face masks and 3D printing this and that. Then they decided that they had to be more, that, you know, you have to source for your material. You have to be able to look at cost. You have to be able to look at transportation, logistics. I think the COVID created this whole new set of very entrepreneurial, because when you talk about entrepreneurial, you talk about people who know how to respond to a crisis, how to pivot, how to, you know, plan. And this is really what happened. So you created this whole little ecosystem of people really not knowingly building up their social business and social entrepreneurship skills, you know, to meet demand, you know, and in this case, the demand for PPEs, you know, and demand for all sorts of other innovations that could really make a difference. And I was really, really excited to see how everybody was pivoting their own work to try and help in this crisis. And yet, you know, they were able to scale it, you know, and so many lessons were learned, and it became very exciting. But I wanted to add on that on the other side, it also brought a lot of opportunities for funders to also pivot. And, you know, Ed has, I mean, you're in this space, right? And, you know, it was an exciting time for us who were trying to raise funds for all this work that the social entrepreneurs were trying to do. And, you know, it also revealed to me that in Malaysia, you know, a lot of funding for social entrepreneurs or social enterprises were very much still in the space of as like a donation, you know, that's why, you know, people think, are you an NGO? Shouldn't you be a foundation? You know, why are you a business? You know, and our money is only for, and you know, for donation, not for investment. And I think that is something that's slowly changing around the world. And you know, even for investors now, you have the principle for responsible investing, right, as a principle. But that's only the starting point, you know. But what about investments which are specifically tailored towards impact, like during the COVID? So and why is there not more of these investments? When we were trying to raise funds, you know, it was always in the form of donations or CSR money, but not in the form of investments, which would allow, say, a company now 3D printing ventilator parts. You know, how do you help them to grow? Of course, you could say it's a tech company, but their principle is not to be a tech company. Their principle is to be a socially responsible company. Like they said, that was the core principle, as Adeline said, that they pivoted around. And so now there's a movement, of course, around the world for something called social impact funding, to create like formal funding tracks which really focus on social impact in the mainstream financial investment world. And that's very, very exciting, actually, you know. And I hope, you know, in some ways that this will grow in Malaysia as well, and it will give much more opportunity for enterprises to scale. And I think a lot of this has grown during COVID because of the need to scale projects that may impact. So very exciting. outcome from a crisis to me, that, we should really not lose this momentum, that one, innovation makes a lot of difference, but scaling, is important, and sustainability is of course key. And the whole landscape must be complete, it cannot be piecemeal funding. It has to be funding which looks at long-term sustainable impact. So anyway, that's a long-winded answer.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So in the interest of time, we have some questions queued up as well. So we will jump to the third question, and I will let Kartini go first. So if you have one question to ask to the policymakers, what would it be and why?
So like Ed just now said, so now I can start dulu kan. I think that kind of like segue quite nicely to what Dr. Rofina mentioned about sustainability. Sustainability, I think that would be the big theme. Okay, I wouldn't say I don't have one specific question, but it's a theme. It's about sustainable. And I see a lot of initiative being pulled out, especially during the COVID. So, every time the minister makes an announcement about a certain initiative. So, it's going to be Penjana, it's going to be Prisma. There's so many of those. And I see that entrepreneurs is actually part of that. Yeah, it's part of that. And I'm also looking at audio. Okay, thank you. So I'm also, I applaud those kind of opportunities and initiatives done by the policymakers. But when they do that, they need to keep in mind that it's not going to be a one-off handout, because one off handout does not solve the issue of the sustainability, the knowledge, the upskilling, the mindset shift, because most of the time you can give a handout, but what entrepreneurs really need is that, not to say hand holding, but really a structure and ecosystem that can really support them. I can see that like small businesses just within my housing community during the COVID, we had like a WhatsApp group within our community. So because it's a lockdown, and then everybody starts selling food. Everybody starts selling food. So we love that, because we don't have to spend time on to spend that extra money on Grab, right? So if like I wanted coffee, I just ask my neighbor from the next road, and then she will make coffee, and then she will send. And then, because at some point you get tired of cooking your own food. But after COVID, the group has gotten quiet. It's either some of them did mention, oh, it's going to be really hard. So I'm just giving a very small example just within my community. But some of them were really thriving during that pandemic. So sometimes I thought like, oh, I remembered ordering lunch from a local, someone local just around my community, and she actually does that catering. And akak saya tak buat dah sebab tak ada customer, kan? So it's such a missed opportunity, because she could have either look at it or strategize it. Maybe have the knowledge, and now I did well during the COVID. But now how can I really sustain? It's just a small shift. Orang dah boleh merentas negeri, tu je. That was the only difference. And then suddenly she got no business. Yeah, so the same thing goes to a friend of mine. He lost his job as an event manager, and then he opened up he rented out a central kitchen to do food business. And then I just had a conversation with him just a couple of days ago, and he said, oh, you know what, with the opening up of things, I'm starting to feel the impact on my customer. So it's not only for food business, even for us, I'm in the creative industry. They need to be looking at the needs of entrepreneur in different niche, and see how they can support to create this sustainable ecosystem, because the motivation and the stamina, like I think that Lynn said about running a marathon, right? It feels like you're running a marathon. And the marathon has no finishing line. There's no finish line. So hence the handouts or the grants, the micro grants are wonderful, but how can we support the entrepreneurs so that they can up level?
Yep.
They can go to the next level. I see this with accelerators as well. You join us 6 months, and then they say, okay, you know, we're going to send you to Silicon Valley to speak to all the wonderful people there. Okay, and then? And then after that, do I get to open an office in Silicon Valley? I mean, that, you know, because yeah, there's a few accelerators that not to say I participated, but you know, be in the networking in. I won't mention the names, but you know, that's my thought. And people still send me invitations. Tini, join this accelerator. It's going to be good. Women accelerator. You go to this country and learn from all these people. Okay, if I leave, then what's going to happen to my business? Because I am not a big company and it's only me. I'm the key person. That's number one. So if I go, I can't run my business. Hence, it's not sustainable, but I want to go. So that kind of the support, should I mean, and if I go and after that I come back after 6 months, there's a lot of things that we need to think about in terms of support. And I think the question is not really a question, but it's the team around sustainable and supporting, so that we have a strong ecosystem, so that we can, you know, see that companies go beyond 3 years. 3 years, yeah, 3 years, and not like, if I mention it's just within my small committee, I think 2 months kot diorang buka bisnes makanan, lepas tu akak tak buat dah lah. Kenapa akak tak buat? Sedap apa? Sedap, produk sedap. No stuff lah, cannot lah. Okay, but you know, it's such missed potential. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yep, thanks for sharing, Tini. Perhaps Adeline and Professor Yasmin, do you have any input in terms of what would you ask the policymakers? And it's also tied into what one of our participant asked, actually, the same question from Ashraf. In your opinion, how can public policy be leveraged to remove some of these challenges in entrepreneurship context in Malaysia, especially with regards to creating unicorns? You know, the vision is to create 5 unicorns by 2025 with 5,000 new companies, you know, so maybe you have some input in there.
Oh, that one is a conversation on its own, but you know, following on to Kartini, I'll take the advantage, you know, say, you know, when you follow on, you know, a lot of things you want to say has been said, but on that note, I think, you know, let's stop slogans, okay, I'm with that one, but there's still a lot to be done in terms of how we think we are helping entrepreneurs and how we should be helping entrepreneurs. So one-offs are really nice for short stopgaps, but it doesn't really work. The second is that, you know, I really hope that more incentives are given to funders, actually, to enable them to fund in very more strategic ways rather than just looking at, you know, short-term ROIs or anything like that. So, you know, incentives, for instance, to encourage funding of acquisition of new technologies, or, you know, upscaling technologies for small businesses rather than a one-off fund. But it has to come with the whole package, as Kartini said. It has to come with the upskilling. It has to come with the follow-on, what do you call it, monitoring, and, you know, a market fit, or whatever you want to call it in business. You know, so I don't know how much that kind of support is given. I know a lot of people who receive funding, really, like you said, the support stops, and then, you know, after a few months or after a year, and then you're really on your own. But how do we create this support system through incentivizing funders or incentivizing agencies to look at, you know, business continuity as a really key part of survival of entrepreneurs? So there's still a lot of space that that we can work on in terms of policy, and certainly that's one of the areas I think that we need to look at. There's very little incentive on social impact funding. I mean, there was some early attempts to create that kind of funding a few years ago, but seems to have died out. And there's, not as many people working on business continuity support as we'd like in the entrepreneur space, which also can be a challenge, I guess. So, a lot of asks, but there you go.
So we'll be moving on to some of the audience questions now, and there's a lot of questions here. So just and in the interest of time, let me just get to the first question from Tian, and I combine this with he has another question addressing to Adeline. For those who came from a corporate background as an individual contributor or not even a manager, what are some of the working experience that carries across to entrepreneurship well, and what are the habits that you had to unlearn? And the follow-up question is to Adeline, does your business do men's clothes as well? And is there a niche there?
Yeah, so maybe I can go first as for this one. So I did come from a corporate background as well before I started up Revolva. So I used to work as a management consultant, and then I started up my own business, right? I think there were a lot of great working experience, and there are lots of things that I actually brought over from my previous work to the startup world. I think a lot of things were integrated as well. So things like learning about frameworks, things about and even just the very, very small details, right? Like how do you do business development? How do you speak to your potential customer and clients? I think the amazing thing about entrepreneurship is your skills are very transferable. So you can literally take anything that, you can be anybody, you can be, from any experience from the past, and there is still things that you can always contribute to your entrepreneurial journey. So I think that's the wonderful part about entrepreneurship. Some of the things that I have to unlearn, I think this was something that Kartini was speaking a little bit on. It's on the very rigid work timing, right? So so as a management consultant, of course, timing were very bizarre, right? You work from morning until it's notorious, right? It's known to be you work very long hours. So I think that was something that I had to unlearn as an entrepreneur, because you manage your own time as an entrepreneur. So like what she was saying, lots of events happen on Saturday and Sunday, and therefore Saturday and Sunday would have become my busiest day instead of Monday to Fridays. So there are a lot of things that I had to unlearn as well in terms of timing. But I think in the end of the day, skills were all very transferable, and from you could actually make the best out of it in your own entrepreneurship journey. I guess that's the best part of it. And in terms of men clothing, so yeah, thanks for this question. I think it's very interesting because a lot of people has been asking us, and that's actually a very exciting indicator. So I think when we did our market research in the beginning, a lot of people, more female responded, and a lot of men, they literally what they told us was, no, we just get if we go Milo gave us free t-shirt, we just wear the free t-shirt because that's it. They have no interest in renting clothing. But thanks for asking. Probably in the future, we would love to have a better diverse collection. So yeah, thanks. Maybe in the future we'll do that.
I think you got to educate your market as well in how to dress.
Yeah.
That is an opportunity, Adeline.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
taking notes.
grooming classes, styling, those I think are a big market anyway.
Yeah.
So answering this question, for those of you who came from corporate background, what was the working experiences that carries across? Definitely, there's a lot. And I'm so glad that I actually have those experiences to back me up in my entrepreneurial journey, because all the companies that I work for at some point, actually no, not at some point, all the companies that I work for were selling something for profit. The media houses were selling content, it's either a film or a drama or advertising on radio. We were selling something, and I was a part of that big ecosystem. And I was probably contributing, you know, if you're in a department, you dalam department ni lah, okay? And this is why I now feel that and totally encourage anyone in any field whatsoever to explore any areas, even though if it's not your area of expertise, because that's what I found most valuable. So when I was working for the radio station and when I was working for the production house, I started off as the face. You know, I was a host. I hosted TV programs and I was a radio announcer. So we call that the content creation department. But you have sales, we have finance, we have everything, because you know it's an ecosystem. You can't just have the product without all these departments, right? But with observation and also having colleagues that, you know, share with you all the other and how the other department works, and you know how first it's you know, it's the content and how it goes to pitching to the client, and then the clients get it, and then it's, yeah, you know, until it goes out into a film or a drama. That experience really helped me in putting that base for my business. In fact, the network helps a lot. I think if I started with zero, without knowing people here and there, or without having friends who work at certain places, which I probably would need to either engage or you know, inquire for their service, or maybe they are requiring for my service. So the network, being in the line and creating network with people was really helpful, as well as number 3 would be the discipline of working, because you know that that's how it's like. But it was also the thing that I had to unlearn, just like what Adeline said. You know, it took me more than a year to realize that if I didn't have anything to do on an Wednesday afternoon, I can just go back and do my groceries. But I felt that I needed to stay in the office until like 5 or 6 before I could, you know, I should go now because it's 6. So that transition was really hard for me, because as an entrepreneur, you can work if you need to at 2 a.m. you do it at 2 a.m. But it also means that your Monday morning is free, then go for the run. It's all right. So I found that really hard. I felt really guilty for doing things if, you know, I don't have anything on this Monday morning, but should I be in office? But should I go for a run? No, I don't want to go for a run. I should be here. But I have nothing on my plate on that day. Yeah, but now that's the thing that I love so much about entrepreneurship, because your time is just so dynamic. The time is the most valuable change for me. Yeah, thank you.
And next question from Zaim, and also Leanne also asked the same question regarding sort of work-life culture. So entrepreneurs are the ones who work 80-hour work week in order to avoid the 40-hour week, some would say. So is it true for you personally, and what would your advice be for entrepreneurs in the space? Let's start with Prof. Yasmin.
I mean, there's nothing that beats hard work, really. But, you know, I think that the balance is really important, because sometimes they say, you know, you have to take a step back to see what you're doing, to really know whether you're going in the right direction or not. You know, a step back is always useful. You know, reflect and really have time to clear your mind. That there's no doubt about that, you know. And family is everything, yeah, guys. Never sacrifice your family for anything. So, you know, if anything, get them involved, or, you know, or get them to understand what you're doing, and you have to always make the time. So I'm a big proponent of work-life balance. You know, I've been in my career multitasking like crazy, but I always tell people, you know, there's certain areas of your life you have to protect, and that's time with family, and, you know, your own sanity, really, because you are the lead. Like Kartini says, you know, you are the one, you know, and Adeline, you are the one. You have to keep healthy. You know, you have to be the one in the life jacket, you know, to save everybody else. So don't ever forget that as an entrepreneur. If you sink, and everybody sinks. So look after yourself, and work-life balance is no joke. It is a part of surviving entrepreneurship. It's, this part of a survival skill is to know when to really stop and stand back. So, guys, think about that.
Yeah, I agree like completely with what Prof. Yasmin just shared. I think most of us, like if we're entrepreneurs, we struggle a lot with this guilt, right? Like thinking that we are not doing enough. And more so if you take like investors' money, you feel so bad for like taking time off. And I think like work-life balance is very important. And I like to think of it as work-life like integration, because I think these days it's very hard to say like, okay, I'm just working from like 8 to 5 and then I'm going to off like WhatsApp. I'm not going to reply anybody anymore. I think it's very hard to do that these days, but I think it's finding like your pocket of peace throughout your day. So looking at how you can steal time from here and there. So like what Kartini was sharing, like if you got nothing on Wednesday morning, go for the jog, right? And if you have to work at 2 a.m. in the morning, then do that. So it's like rearranging your time. And I think that's the biggest learn here, because I think you really have to take care of yourself as an entrepreneur, because if you go on working like 80 hours a week, like sure, that's like fine and all, but I think you get burnout, and then you have to think of the long-term effect on your business as well. So a little bit of reminder here is that you can never pour from an empty cup.
Oh, nice.
So we have less than 5 minutes to go on this session.
So
I know, time really flies, and we need to just conclude this. But before we do that, I want to also ask this question from a good friend of mine, Elton, just on the Chevening program. How has it impacted you in your entrepreneurship journey, or how has it added value into your own personal journey? And with that, you can also end with your closing remarks. So I'll start this with Kartini, and then Prof. Yasmin, and then Adeline. Would that be okay?
Yeah, yes. Thank you. Time flies really fast, and we kind of like just started to getting to warm up, right? But,
exactly, yeah.
Okay. Alamak, I shouldn't say that until viewers cakap kita short sendiri pula kan. Yeah. But anyway, the Chevening experience was so invaluable. I think the one word that I would like to bring out here, the experience made me into a very resilient person. In fact, I got my Chevening after working for almost 8 years before I decided to quit it all and leave. So I was considered like quite a mature student when I entered Goldsmith, because some of my classmates were like fresh from degree and then they decided to do their masters, right? And you are like, no, I've been working, but I had a few. And the most wonderful thing about the course that I did broadcast journalism in Goldsmith, was that everyone in that course, there were 10 of us, all girls, okay, all girls, and they were like producers from all the big stations in Brazil, in China, in Scotland. So I had such an exposure to all these very important people from all over the world. So that opened my eyes. And because of that opportunity as well, I think, and exchanging ideas, you broaden your mindset. It just within, because I there's so many things that I learned about media in their country. And I remember going to a point, I said, oh, you can do that in your country? Oh, you can see it? Oh, you had that? Oh, no, not in Malaysia. You get what I mean? So that exposure was wonderful, and being resilient. So that's, I think, being resilient, because there on your own, you're on your own, and you have to build your own friends again. Because for me, I left my work, and then they were other Cheveners, but they weren't other universities. So you have to make new friends. So you have to be brave, and also look at opportunities at how you can upskill yourself. So when I was there, I was working, and I find anything that I could do, not only to get extra income, but also to get experience. So I was doing sales. I even cooked at a Oriental supermarket, nasi goreng. you know, just like for their expo and stuff like that. So I think those things exposed me to being, you know, resilient, and it's okay. You can do, and you can do whatever you can to survive. And that is the DNA of entrepreneur. You need to put your ego aside, because sometimes you just have to get your hands dirty, because it needs to get done. So if you have to do it, you have to do it. Yeah. So those are the learnings from me.
Wonderful, wonderful. I guess I'll share my little bit on being a Shivna, and you know, I think I'm the grandmother of your the group. Yeah, not yet grandmother, but almost. But yeah, you know, I've been a Shivna since 1990. Some of you not born yet, I suppose. 1990, when I was awarded my Shivning, and at that time I was very fortunate, of course, to do my PhD. But really, what I got about it is here. I'm here right now, guys. How many years later? 40 years later, almost. I'm still here. I'm talking to the next generation of Shivnas. Amazing, isn't it? So, you know, the network that I've built across the years, the 30 over years I've been a Chevening scholar, is amazing, not just locally, internationally as well. And as an entrepreneur, you can't beat that, you know. You can't beat having such a network. I can call on so many Shivnas about so many things. So Prof Jomo was a Shivna, you know. In fact, I met him when I was a young lecturer, and, you know, he was already an icon, you know, in a Chevening social, you know, where I could actually stand next to him and chat with him, you know, as part of a family. It's amazing. So, you know, don't discount this. You know, you guys are all early Shevners, but, you know, 30 years from now, you'll see, you know, the amazing value of the network such as this, you know, which really has lasted the test of time. And the current initiatives of having so much more engagements, like in the little groups, and now that with the not new media, now with the way that we communicate, it's not new, I know, it's new for me, but, you know, it's amazing. So, you know, like I didn't get to answer Ed's question on unicorns, you know, and I have a lot of thoughts on it. Come and join the CAM entrepreneur group, you know, and, you know, I'll share my story then about what I really think about how we can get unicorns.
Yeah, we'll do another session.
Yeah, let's do that.
Yasmin,
So
no
Ed is in that group. So
yeah.
We'll
We'll create a year-end social gathering and then talk about unicorns.
Absolutely. So, you know, kudos to Simon's team for forming these little interest groups. You know, it's been really fun. I've been attending off and on here and there. And, you know, you continuously learn, you know, by engagement, and entrepreneurship is all about that, isn't it? Continuous learning and learning. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
With this, on behalf of CAM, I'd like to thank all three panelists for their time and sharing their personal stories, because the journey of entrepreneurship is very personal. So today we really got to get behind the scenes of these three prominent person in the field of entrepreneurship. And I'd like to pass this time over to the MCs and end this session. Thank you.